Deep in the heart of the Badlands, a new power is rising. Around the Pillar of Bone has a new kingdom been forged. The legendary, the diabolical, the Baconator, Pigtonia. Pigtonia is a cruel parody of that most chivalrous of realms, and here, the Bacon Riders make foul mockery of Bretonia's honorable deeds. We're looking at a Boar Boy build for the Greenskins in this one. They'll be going up against the Knights of the Lady, King Louen the Lionhearted, and his greatest champions out on Crusade. Now on paper, Boar Boys look pretty trash, right? They're slow, they have bad stats, meh. So a lot of people kind of consign them to the graveyard, but these kind of builds can be surprisingly effective if you catch an opponent off guard, and Wurrzag is a huge part of it. He's got tons of Winds of Magic for Brain Burstas and Foots of Gork, which he can set up with his Effigy of the Git, and perhaps even more importantly, he has a million ways to make Boar Boys hit like a Mack truck. Here we go, Fists of Gork, Wah, and the charge bonus and melee attack every time you cast from the Bonewood Staff. It all synergizes incredibly well with Warcav. He'll be supported by 2 Goblin Big Bosses on Wolves, only one of which has They Need Stabbing, just to keep them cheap and cost effective, and those 3 together already represent a large threat to the Bretonian army. Behind them are Stone Trolls, which have leadership problems obviously, as all trolls do, but they're still a stupidly good unit. You can't shoot them, can't hurt them with magical attacks, they regen, and they crump things in melee. So in terms of Pigtonia itself, 4 Boar Boys and 3 Savage Boar Boys, and contrary to lots of other heavy cav options, they don't want to spread the field. They want local superiority. Near Wurrzag, just a big hammer that operates as the righteous fist of Gork, and smashes aside everything that gets in their way. It's a bit misleading, because their base stats are obviously atrocious, but when you factor in Wah and Here We Go and the Bonewood Staff, we're talking like 75 charge bonus, 70 plus melee attack, AP beast for only like 700 gold, so you can field a lot of them. They do a lot of damage, but they're also very squishy, which means if they run into Knights of the Realm, or Grail Knights, or King Louen, they'll get smashed. Which is why Brain Burstas and Foots of Gork are there too, to help equalize that cav fight. But it also means Wurrzag has a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He has to be used well, or this kind of thing just won't work. For Bretonnia, fairly standard fare, I would say. Knights of the Realm are a very good cav unit against the Greenskins. They won't fare well against a Black Orc Core or against a Ragnarok Spider, but outside of those, they have the punching power and cost efficiency to perform well against a variety of different Greenskins builds. The Knights of the Lionhearted will provide that extra punch as the champions of King Louen. They've got 10 bonus versus large, so in a cav fight, they hit real hard, and they ignore the war paint and physical resistance of Savage Orcs with their magical attacks. So, the nice thing about playing Greenskins, if you're going for that patented Pigtonia play, is that none of your cav units are actually expensive. So you can afford to bait them and try to get Bretonnia to overcommit in response. If you lose a Boar Boy unit to kill Knights of the Realm, you will take that every single day of the week and twice on Sundays. What's the best way to force the cav fight? Well, you threaten a frontal charge into the peasantry. Not because Knights care if the peasants die, of course. It just looks bad if they're not countercharging themselves. You know, because of the implication. Now, like I said, Wurrzag is going to have a lot of heavy lifting to do in this game. He has a lot of ways to influence the battlefield. Magic is the biggest one, and Brain Burstas are actually a really good spell against cav. What he tried to do there is catch out the cavalry as they retreat. There are a couple ways you can use that spell. You can drop it directly on the cav unit themselves, but oftentimes they'll get out of the way because they have the mobility to escape. So putting it behind the unit where they will typically retreat to is really not a bad idea at all. If you overcast it, you get more AP damage. That can be very good, or you can go for non-overcast so you have a bit more Winds of Magic. Now, Here We Go just went down. That's plus 40 melee attack in an AoE. Nasty Skulkers are coming in. They're also an important part of this build. Their Smoke Bomb, their Armor Piercing, the fact that they can slow down cavalry and prevent them from escaping is a really big deal. But with King Louen going in and the rest of the cavalry going in, those Boar Boys wanting to get out of the fire arc, that means the first 2 spells from Wurrzag, a bit iffy, not a lot of value. Makes sense that you'd want to retreat there. They were taking some damage. You don't want to get charged by Louen while that Sword of Corone is down, but you can see that the Greenskins are now surging forward. They're sending everything to try to get into those peasant bowmen, to try to compromise the back line and force those cavalry to commit. So far, Knights of the Realm have done a little bit of countercharging, but they have not committed to an actual prolonged engagement. King Louen is more than happy to go in and munch on some Boar Boy cav, while the Goblin Spider Riders on the left flank charge in and try to tie down all those peasant bowmen. You will notice a lot of pox arrows in this game. as Stand Your Ground goes down for King Louen. Pox arrows used to cause a debuff to your own troops. If you friendly fired, they would be causing your knights to have the poison debuff, and they'd be less effective in melee as a result. That is no longer a thing. Nice brain burster from the Greenskins there, and the Knights of the Lionhearted with their majestic charge into the Gobble ranks. And this is exactly how the Greenskins want to play. They want to play reactive with their magic, with their effigies of the Git, with their foots of Gork, with their brain burstas, but they want to play proactive with their cavalry and get very aggressive with that. The Stone Trolls over on the left flank, munching through all kinds of peasant mob and men-at-arms. Typically, you want to have those closer to your cavalry because they really help turn a cav fight in your favor. If Grail Knights or the Knights of the Lionhearted, God forbid, manage to get into your cavalry, Stone Trolls can weather that storm because of their magic resistance, and they'll cause a lot of damage. Sword of Crone is down for King Louen over on the Greenskins' right flank, and all that cavalry is starting to meander its way into the Bretonian back line, and they're looking pretty strong in these opening engagements so far. Peasant Bowmen have not been tied down except for one unit. 3 of them are still alive. The 4th was shattered essentially by all those cavalry charges. But now the Greenskins are getting that Boar Boy mass, and the Bacon Riders are out in force. Wah is popped. They are mulching the front ranks, and they are beginning to threaten everything in the rear. You know, because of the implication. Earthblood going down on the Knights of the Realm, and a full HP unit of Spearmen Men-at-Arms. Peasant Bowmen about to get swarmed here. Greenskins have pushed through the center, but the Knights of the Lionhearted and Knights of the Realm over on the right flank charging in, and in the center as well, the Holy Wardens of Lama Santel Abbey with their magical attacks and their flaming swords and hammers. They're going in, and they're running over Nasty Skulkers. Really important for the Greenskins to keep Nasty Skulkers away from any infantry that could mess them up. You want them for the cav fight. You don't want them to be fighting infantry, so they are retreating from the Holy Wardens, which is correct. Brainburster went down, and immediately a Overcast regrowth in compensation, trying to buff them up. They were down to about 34 models, did not have a lot of HP left, but Overcast regrowth is 2,000 health, and this is why it's so hard to skip healing for so many factions, but especially for Bretonia and the elite cavalry. I mean, the unit was close to dead. Now they're incredibly healthy again, and they're only missing 11 models. So they're back up to 3/4 HP. That's huge. Healing is very strong. We got a glorious shot of the Pillar of Bone hanging out in the background, and they're fighting in and amongst the groves on the Bretonian left flank now, but the cavalry with Go popped. They're proving to be a lot for the Bretonians to deal with, and the Peasant Bowmen, well, things just got incredibly messy for them. It's not a very heavily armored Greenskins army. Stone Trolls are really the only thing in this build that are resilient in the face of focus fire. So getting rid of all those Peasant Bowmen, very important, and perhaps more importantly than that, it forces the cavalry to go in, because they can't let their Peasant Bowmen just die for free. But now we're getting very close to the white line, fighting in and amongst the chimney stalks, these fungal spores spouting up into the air in the shadow of the Pillar of Bone. A glorious, majestic charge from the Knights of the Lionhearted. King Louen getting the hammer and anvil, and those should be a lot of dead Boar Boys and Spider Riders, because they were not supported much by any melee attack spells, but a Brain Burster hitting the back of the cav. Earthblood, again, counteracting some of the damage from that spell. Holy Wardens chased after some of those Nazi Skulkers, and now they're coming back to join the party once more. King Louen is full HP. That might be a problem for the Greenskins in the late game as their cavalry is committed, and they have one thing to say in response: unleash the Goblin Fanatics. And a huge cast from them. My god, look at the carnage. That is 2 full units of men-at-arms deleted from the game. The 8-peak loonies and their dwarfs on a chain, killing a bunch of poopy peasants. And now the Grail Knights, or rather the Knights of the Lionhearted and the Knights of the Realm, just barely winning that engagement in time. The terror from King Louen was invaluable in that fight. If they did not terror out near the edge of the map there, then the Stone Trolls would have come in. It would have been a full sandwich and a lot of dead cavalry models, and frankly, that might have won the Greenskins the game outright. Effigy of the Git, I don't know if it just finally came off cooldown or if Wurrzag was not in range. Kind of I don't know if I'd call that a waste because they are getting some cavalry kills here, but it could have been better if it came out a little bit sooner. I just don't know if Wurrzag was in range to cast a spell or not. They got a nice charge, the Knights of the Lionhearted did, into the unbreakable 8-peak loonies, who are going to be an important anchor in the late stages of this battle. King Louen is going in with the Sword of Corone, and this is an important fight right here. A lot of Boar Boyz committed. Here we go. Pops. Get back here. Pop. Plus 16 leadership. Lots of melee attack buffs going down. Lots of leadership buffs to keep everything in the fight, but both sides are wavering, and right now, King Louen is by far the most terrifying unit left on the field, quite literally and figuratively as well. But the Knights are dropping real fast. I believe the Life Mage is out of her Winds of Magic now, so probably only maybe one more Earthblood the rest of the game. Stone Trolls routed off, but that is to be expected. Momentarily give Bretonnia the advantage on the balance of power, but they'll come right back, and they're regenerating the whole time as well. So it's really about getting rid of King Louen and the cavalry. If that happens, peasant leadership will not be able to hold, even with the Life Mage still alive. And this is a little bit scary for both sides, right? Because if King Louen goes down, he still has to contend with Stone Trolls who have the mass to prevent him from escaping, and 2 Goblin Big Bosses and Wurrzag who all hit pretty hard, especially when he's debuffed by They Need Stabbin'. Even a force like Bakey's not going to be doing that well in that kind of scenario. Now this is where you would definitely like to have maybe one more unit of Goblin Spider Riders. Using them to kill the Peasant Bowman early was not a terrible idea, but having one in the late game would be huge to have the poison to slow Louen and prevent him from escaping, to get that pulse around off when he decides to commit to this fight. The Knights are rounding off. One unit just shattered. The Knights of the Lionhearted are on their last legs. They're about to break off, and that might leave King Louen isolated. There is an Earthblood coming in. That will be the final cast from the Life Mage this game. King Louen just lost all of his support. Balance bar is in favor of Bretonnia, but all the Knights just died, and the rest of the peasants are not moving over here very quickly. They're slow. They don't run very fast. Life Mage is in dire straits. She's being attacked by a plus 48 melee attack. Here we go, Goblin Big Boss, who's up to 80 MA now. She's dropping very quickly. He's landed 3 or 4 attacks in a row. King Louen down to 1700 HP and dropping hyper fast here. Effigy of the Git has pinned him down in place. Stone Trolls, what they need to do is use a movement order to get all the way around him, and they could totally prevent him from taking off. And if King Louen dies here, I think the Greenskins win, but Effigy of the Git wore off, and now King Louen has escaped. There are a handful of Cav models left. I'm not sure they'll be able to make much of an impact on this battle, but a good charge for them, actually. I mean, the Knights of the Lionhearted get up to 50 melee attack plus and almost 45 weapon strength when they're up against Stone Trolls. So even though their magical attacks will cause them to deal less damage, it's kind of canceled out by their high bonus versus large. King Louen coming in, one more Sword of Corone, and that might seal the deal here. The Greenskins were so close to taking that battle, but the terror, it's too much now. Immunopsych on Wurrzag won't be enough. He does not have the power to outduel a Hippogriff or the Knights of the Lionhearted, and that will be a mass rout. Army losses kicks in, and the game will go to Bretonnia, but barely. 1 or 2 tiny little changes at any point in that battle, I think, could have given Pigtonia the win. Really fun game, though. Very entertaining. Knights of the Lionhearted were awesome. 140 kills. I don't need to tell you the power of regrowth. 2000 HP on a cav unit that's already that good. I mean, it just covers for mistakes, and even if you're not making any mistakes with the cav unit or single entity, being able to burst heal them that quickly, that efficiently, yeah, it's stupid good. But there were a couple things there the Greenskins could have done that I think would have given them the win. I think in the late game engagement against King Louen, if they get a movement order and fully surround the Lionhearted there, I don't see the Hippogriff being able to push through Stone Trolls, and that's one of the things that makes the Greenskins new units from the Grom and the Paunch DLC so powerful. Like, Stone Trolls, they have so many uses. They have so much utility, and they hit like a Mack truck. That mass, that magic resistance, the fact they can survive arrow fire so well, they're a stupid good unit. We saw them get 156 kills and a Chevron earned here, but I think they could have killed King Louen if they had been just given a little movement in order to move past and get that full surround off. I think the Pigtonia build matches up quite well against Bretonnia when they don't invest quite so many in Knights of the Realm. I think typically if you go like 1 or 2 Grail Knights and don't spread the field quite as wide, or instead get Questing Knights to maybe worry about a Black Orc Core, which I think is a very viable build for the Greenskins in this matchup. Greenskins do have a lot of ways to play it. They can go for the Boar Boyz spam, they could go for the Black Orc Core, they could go for the Arachnarok Spider thing, they could even go double Arachnarok Spider. These are things that Bretonnia players have to worry about, and so if there aren't lots of Knights of the Realm, the Boar Boyz should have a better time. There were a couple spells here that came in a little bit late or missed. Some of it was unlucky, some of it just came in a little bit too late. I think that if any of those spells hit, it could easily have been a different game. Like the second Effigy of Degit we saw on the Knights of the Realm, if he catches them out a little bit earlier while they're still pinned down next to those fungal spore chimneys, the smoke chimneys, yeah, I think that the Knights of the Realm die there. That cabinet doesn't get charges into the 8 Peak Loonies, doesn't get charges into the Boar Boyz in the late game, into the Stone Trolls, and yeah, losing a cabinet a little bit earlier changes the entire complexion of that multiplayer match. So a really interesting one, got super close. I think you guys can see, even though the Pigtonia build didn't quite pull it out in this one, how effective it can be. And if Bretonnia goes a little bit less heavy on the cav or goes for a slightly different build here, yeah, it can definitely work. I would not say it's a meta pick you want to bust out all the time, but if it catches them off guard, it can run them into the dirt of the Badlands.